Hey, what's up guys? Will Allen here, owner of First Light Fishing Company. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining what is centerpin float fishing and why it's my chosen method for consistently catching salmon and steelhead here in the Great Lakes region. With fall quickly approaching, that'll be a great time to make a video so you guys can get ready, learn, and get prepared for this upcoming salmon and steelhead season. But without further ado, enjoy. What's up guys, Will Allen here, owner of First Light Fishing Company. In today's video, I just wanted to give an overview of what centerpin float fishing is. I know a lot of you guys are really into it, but I know a lot of my new customers don't really have experience with it and don't know what it's used for. So in this video, I'm going to go over the benefits, the drawbacks, and overall just what is centerpin float fishing. So, centerpin float fishing is, in my opinion, the best way to consistently catch salmon and steelhead in moving water. So this is in the fall, winter, and spring when the steelhead come up in the rivers and the streams, and you're fishing for them. Right after the salmon spawn. Where I'm at in New York, you typically start to see steelhead early to mid-October. You can catch them all the way through until about middle of April. Sometimes into May, depending on the weather that year, but typically around the middle to end-ish of April. I'm going to use Oswego River for an example. Oswego River, I start to see salmon late September. The fishing gets good early October. The fishing gets really good for salmon middle of October. At the same time, middle of October, you start to see more and more steelhead, more and more brown trout, rainbow trout. Come early to mid-November, the salmon have dwindled to pretty much none. You hook them once in a while, pretty much nothing. And this is when you have the really, really good days for brown trout, steelhead, and rainbow trout early November all the way through to late November. Come December, things start to get colder. Fish aren't as active. Still very good fishing. January, February are the coldest months of the year. This is when they go into their winter holes, and it is very, very beneficial to fish from a boat because you can get in the middle, kind of where they typically sit. That being said, you can still catch them relatively consistently January and February. Come March, water starts to heat up a little bit. You also deal with the high water, and when the water gets dirty, it can be harder to catch them during those times. And then late March, early April gets really good again. The fish are stocking up on food before they head back to the lake. And then from mid-April to early May, you just see a steady decline as the water gets warm. So let's get into the reels. I'm filming this video in my shop today. We're in Hannibal, New York, just 15 minutes outside of Oswego. And we have a very nice centerpin float fishing selection. That's my true specialty, is centerpin float fishing for salmon and steelhead in the Great Lakes region. So this reel right here, this is a Tribs relay. This is a 5-inch reel. 5-inch reel is my personal favorite size. In the creeks, the small creeks, I use a 4.5. On the big water, like some parts of Salmon River and like Niagara, I might use a 5.5-inch reel, but a 5-inch diameter reel is the best because you can use it on small creeks, moderate sized water, and big water. The reason a bigger reel is better on bigger water is the bigger the spool, the more line you're reeling in per crank. Each revolution of the spool, I'm reeling in more line compared to a 4.5-inch reel. This is super helpful on those big waters, making those really, really long drifts. It can take a while to get your bait back in. The bigger reel helps with that. The quicker you can reel back in, the quicker you can get your next cast out, and ultimately you'll catch more fish. So, what is the point of a centerpin? The reel has no drag. And a lot of guys think, well, what's the point of, I can use a fly reel or a spinning reel that has drag. The point of the reel having no drag is so that you can cast it out and just let it free flow with the current. There's no drag, there's no resistance on that spool, therefore there's no resistance on your bait when it's coming by the fish. And the more natural it looks as it's coming by the fish, the more bites you will get. Because these salmon and steelhead and trout they're very smart fish. They know that they know when a bait looks unnatural, and they won't bite if it looks super unnatural. So the more natural you can present it, the more bites you will get, and therefore the more fish you will catch. Now this is my small creek setup. This is a 10.5 foot Cortland Procast core candle. It's a spinning rod. I put a center pin on it. It still works great. This is a 4.5 inch Raven Helix, and this reel, 4.5 inch, you do feel a little bit undergunned on those bigger waters, Oswego, Salmon River, Niagara, places like that. But on the creeks, it is phenomenal. The Raven Helix spool is so light that it starts up like nothing. And the small size, you can really pick your pockets, really get the drifts very precisely where you want. And on the small creeks, you're not running super long drifts, so you don't need a big reel to reel in the line super fast. Typically, on the big waters, we're running drifts probably 50 yards or more, like very consistently. But on the small creeks, I'm running at maybe 10 to 25 yards. So I don't really need a huge reel on the small creeks. And the rig that you fish with the center pin, I have a video on this as well, my complete Centerpin Float Fishing setup. I can link it in the cards up above. Finish watching this video, then go check that one out. I'll put a link down in the video description as well. But the overall rig is a float, kind of torpedo-shaped float made for fishing in moving water. Then a swivel. This swivel is completely optional. If you want to have a break between your shot line and your main line, you can, but you don't need that swivel there. Followed by a string of split shots. And a lot of guys ask me, like, Will, why don't you just use one shot? I've done a lot of tests with this. I've compared using one inline weight versus a string of split shots, and I catch double, if not triple, the fish running a string of split shots. I'm not sure why I would ever do something that diminishes how many fish I catch. I always want to catch as many fish as possible to really optimize my time on the water and be as successful as I can. Having a string of split shots compared to just one, it lays out the rig much more naturally. If you just have a single inline weight, it kind of punches it down. And then your bead and stuff just kind of gets thrown about. If you have a string of split shots, it presents the bait much nicer. It lays it out underwater, and it's a much more natural lay when it's flowing down. So I do a string of split shots, between 10 and 15 split shots, depending how big of a rig I'm doing. On the small creeks, like this is an 8-gram float. That's overkill for the creeks. On the small creeks, I use between like a 4.5 gram up until like a 7.5 gram. Typically 5.5 is what I use in the creeks in normal water conditions. This was a high water condition. The faster and deeper the water is, the more weight you need to get down to where the fish are. The salmon and steelhead, 99% of the times, are sitting in the bottom foot of the water column when they're in the creeks and rivers. So you want to have enough weight to actually get down there. Because if your bait's just floating over their head, you're not going to catch as many fish as the guy that's getting their bait right in front of them. And I go over this in my float fishing setup guide video. But for the line, standard 12-pound mono, that's all I use. I use 12-pound mono on my small creek setups, my big river setups, everything. Because I never use more than 12-pound leader. And of course, you don't want to snap off, but if something does have to give way, you want it to be your leader. That way you get to save your float, you get to save your shot, and all you lose is your leader and your hook. So the leader is between 18 and 24 inches long. Typically 8-pound fluorocarbon is what I use. For salmon, I will go typically 10, sometimes up to 12 if I am running skein. But for steelhead, I typically use 8, sometimes 6 for shallow water. But if I had to use one strength pound line for everything, it'd be 8. Because you can land salmon on 8 if you take your time. I know a lot of guys that say like you need 20, 30, 40-pound line to land these salmon. I've landed salmon on a 6-pound line in heavy current. So it can be done, just takes a little bit of time. This is what I had last time I fished back in the spring. A bead, this is an 8mm trout bead tangerine, and this imitates a coho egg perfectly. Below that I have a size 8 trout bead hook, and then I just have the bead pegged with an Eco Row bead peg. And of course I'll have everything linked down below to my website where you can find all the products as well as the fastest shipping times. So, why does centerpin float fishing catch more fish than any other technique? Centerpin float fishing, you can present the bait right to the fish. Fly fishing, sometimes you're dredging bottom, sometimes you're swinging, but you can't dial in exactly where it was when the fish bites. With a centerpin, you have a float, you have your split shots coming down below in your beat. If it's 5 feet of water and you're running 5 feet deep, you're gonna get down to where the fish are. Of course, I do account for the current flow because the rig is not always sitting perfectly up and down in the water. In the fast water, it can be kind of at an angle. So I typically run, if I know the hole's 5 feet deep and it's pretty fast water, I'll probably run it 5.5, 6 feet deep just to make sure I'm getting down there. But the golden rule is run it deeper, deeper, deeper until your bobber starts hitting bottom. If your bobber is pointed downstream, that means your weights are dragging on the bottom. You want it perfectly upstream or tilted back towards you a little bit. This is what I found works best. Of course, you can run it as deep as you want, but you're going to get more snags. And in order to fully optimize the time on the water, you don't want to be retying every other cast. So dial it in to where you're not hitting bottom all the time. You can hit bottom a few times throughout the drift because the bottom is not perfectly flat. The bottom is going to be big rocks and drop off. As long as you're not getting snagged every cast, then you're running at a good depth. A lot of the fish in the Great Lakes region are lazy. You know, they're lazy. There's so much, especially in the fall time, there's so much food coming down in the water column. There's so many salmon eggs, thousands of eggs. Why would the fish go way out of its way to eat an egg when it can eat an egg that's coming right towards it? So with centerpin, you can do that. You can deliver the bait right to the fish and catch more fish than the fly guys and the spin cast guys, and that's in my opinion. And that is on the waters that I've fished Niagara, Oswego, Salmon River, all the creeks from Pulaski to Rochester, and I've done all the techniques. I've done fly fishing, I've done spay, I've done bait casting, I've done spin cast, float fishing, spinners, bottom bouncing. My favorite way to catch fish and the most consistent way for me has been centerpin float fishing. So on these reels there is a clicker, and the clicker, the only point of the clicker is to control the spool. Let's say you're walking spot to spot, you don't want that reel just spinning, having a mind of its own. Let's say you get a fish in the net, you don't want to worry about the reel. The clicker only comes on when the fish has hit the net or I'm walking spot to spot. When I'm at the spot and fighting the fish, the clicker never goes on. I always leave it off. So let's say you get to the spot, you cast out, you cast your float and your whole rig out into the current. You just let the current take it. And I'm just showing you on this reel because this is already set up on a rod. The same concept applies to all centerpin reels. You cast it out and you just let the current just take it. I will feather the spool with my finger every now and then. Just when the float looks like it's starting to get a little bit out of control, I'll kind of check it to get it back in place. And the biggest thing is, any time that bobber goes down at all, goes down, it dips down, it goes up, it goes to the side, set the hook. Hook sets are free. Okay, you can get as many hook sets as you want. I've had many times where I was just letting my bait just drift along, and my bobber, I'm not even kidding, went like that, like an eighth of an inch dip. And like, there's no way that's a fish, but I'm still gonna set it. And it was a fish. And that's happened many times where I'm sure that there's no way that'd be a fish that subtle of a take, but it is. Set the hook as much as you need, and it's better to do it more times than not enough times. Of course, watch out for trees, watch out for other people, don't get your line tangled or make anyone mad, but set the hook as much as you can. Anytime the bobber does anything unnatural, set the hook. If, let's say you're drifting, your bobber goes down, your fingers are ready. The way you hold the rod, your fingers are ready. Your fingers are ready to go. They're not touching the spool the whole time when it's drifting, but they're ready. When the bobber goes down, I drop my fingers down. And you can hold it like that, you can hold it like that, however you want. Once that bobber goes down, you drop your fingers down and you set the hook. And not super hard, not like a bass hook set, but give it some power. You know, the reels are strong, the rods are strong, the rods are made to bend. Give it some power in that hook set. And one more benefit of the Centerpin reel is you can be so quick with the hook sets. With a spinning reel like this, and these are still phenomenal reels. They get the job done. They have a drag system. For most people, these are great. But if you're float fishing with this, and you have the bail open, and your line's just going, bobber goes down. You got to close the bail. You have to reel up the slack, and then you can set it. And that doesn't seem like a whole lot, but that can be 1 or 2 seconds worth of tasks to do before you actually get a hook in the fish. And by that point, a lot of the steelhead have dropped the bait. They know they can feel the hook, they can feel the beads. A lot of beads that I fish are hard beads. They know a real salmonite doesn't feel like that. So they can drop it within half a second. With a Centerpin, you can get a hook in them within half a second. If you're floating along and your bobber goes down, fingers down to the hook. You can literally have a hook in the fish within half a second of them biting it, which is another huge advantage for Centerpin fishing. The fight with Centerpin is unlike anything else. There's no drag, there's no gears, it's you and the fish. It's so much fun. When that bobber goes down, you set it and you get a hook in a steelhead, nothing beats that feeling. Best feeling in the world. So with these reels, since there's no gears, there's no drag, really nothing can break. Yes, the bearings can wear out after many years of fishing for most people, but the overall build of the reel could last 100 years. You know, these reels are made to last. And that's why buying a quality reel is really beneficial. In my opinion, the least you should be spending on a Centerpin reel is around 150 or 200 bucks. When I first started out, I had an Amazon reel. It was 60 bucks. It fell apart when I was fighting my first steelhead. The center knob came off, the reel fell off, and it was not good. Then I went to the Raven Helix. This was my first quality Centerpin reel, and these are between 200 and 250 bucks, depending on if you get the normal one, the XL, what color you get. This reel has been fantastic. I've had this reel for 4 years. It still spins great. I've probably hooked hundreds of fish on this reel, and it has been fantastic. The other reel that I fish is not in the shop right now. It's at my house. It is a jet black Raven Matrix XL fully ported, and that reel was my third Centerpin reel that I ever owned, my third quality one, and that one was around 400 bucks. That reel has hooked me more fish than I can even believe. I've probably hooked hundreds, if not thousands, of fish on that reel, and I just every single time it feels solid. The spool's light. You can cast it really easily. It spins great. It's a solid build, but it's not too heavy. If I had to describe that reel in one word, I'd say sporty. It's like a sports car. You know, it's quick, it's fast, it's snappy, it's tight. Not too heavy. You can throw it around. It's a fantastic reel. Performs excellently. I have fished some other reels, like Canada Drifters, and those are kind of like the Rolls Royce of Centerpin. They're fantastic. They're very expensive. They can be heavy. The optimal weight for Centerpin reels is between 8 and 12 ounces. You want a reel that's light enough where it doesn't fatigue your arm, but heavy enough to where it balances out the rod, because you're fishing rods between 10 and 13 feet long. If your reel's too light, you're going to be fighting to keep that rod up all day. The Canada Drifter that I had was over 14 ounces, which it was awesome. It was a joy to fish. Fighting the fish on the reel felt fantastic, but it was $1,400, and your arms got tired after an hour of fishing it. So it's kind of like, are you looking to catch more fish, or are you looking to make each fish fight more enjoyable? If you're looking to catch more fish, stay in that $200 to $800 range, I'd say, for Centerpins. The jump in quality between a $50 Centerpin and a $200 Centerpin is huge. But the jump in quality between, say, a $600 pin and a $2,000 pin is not that significant in terms of build quality and performance. So I'd say if I had to recommend one starting reel, it'd be the Raven Helix. This is a regular one. I'd recommend the XL, because you can use that on small creeks and big water and have one reel that can pretty much cover all the bases. And I'd pair that with a rod between a 10 or 11 foot if you're fishing on creeks, primarily 13 foot if you're fishing on a little bit of creek, but mainly big water, Oswego, Salmon River, Niagara. And one of my favorite ones is the Riverside Carbon. The Riverside Carbon is one of my favorite Centerpin rods of all time. It's a 4-piece rod, 13 foot, the one that I fish. They make it in a 10, 11, and 13 foot. The 10 and 11 are 2-piece. The 13 is 4-piece. It packs down super small. You can take it in your car. You can get it into the tightest fishing spots, and it performs phenomenally. The 13 foot that I fish on Oswego, Salmon River, is a 6 to 12 pound line rating, and I typically never use less than 6 and never use more than 12. So the line rating is perfect. The bend is great. I catch a lot of fish on that rod, and I don't lose a whole lot of fish on that rod. It has enough backbone to get a hook in them, but it has enough cushion to kind of cushion those leaders and cushion those fish when they do the head shakes and the big runs. That rod comes in right around $100. I'll have that linked below as well. Phenomenal rod. One time I was fishing on DSR on Salmon River, and I leaned my rod up against this old tree. It was winter time. I think it was January. And the tree dropped one of its limbs, and it was all waterlogged and just kind of rotten. Dropped it right on the rod. It bent it terribly. I thought the rod was done. Went over to it, took the limb off. The rod was completely fine, and I'm still fishing that same rod to this day. So, of course, they're not indestructible. All rods can break, but the durability has been fantastic for me. And there is a warranty from a Riversider as well. If you break any piece, contact them, and then you just pay shipping, and they send you a new piece. That rod is fantastic. So overall, I know I kind of went on kind of a ramble there, but Centerpin float fishing is the best way to consistently catch salmon and steelhead in the Great Lakes region and moving water. The way you can dial in your drifts, present the bait right to the fish, get quick hook sets, and have a super, super fun and controlled fight once you do hook these salmon and steelhead. Make Centerpin the ultimate choice for me. So if you want to catch more fish, I'll have a link down in the video description to my website called firstlightfishingco.com. And we are a fishing store. We have our in-person shop here in Hannibal, New York, near Oswego, and also our website, where you can find all the products you need for being successful out in the water for salmon and steelhead. We do sell some other products as well, but our main focus is salmon and steelhead fishing. And you'll see that on the site, we have about 90% of our selection is for salmon and steelhead river fishing. So if you guys haven't tried Centerpin float fishing ever, I really recommend it. I know it's changed a lot of people's lives. It's really a fantastic thing that you shouldn't die without trying it. You know, it's really, really fun. And just having the skill of being able to catch your own fish is extremely, extremely important. You know, the only thing that you can really take with you forever in life is your skills. Your skills are truly the number one thing that sticks with you. So having the skill of catching your own fish and not being reliant on somebody else or grocery stores or anything, having the skill of being able to catch your own fish, your own food, is really priceless. Like you can't put a price on that. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned at least one thing new about Centerpin float fishing, and now you have a better understanding of what it is. It's hard to explain the whole thing in just one short video, but check the links down in the video description where you can find other videos I made on Centerpin float fishing, as well as my website, and any of the products that I talked about in today's video will be linked down below. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys watching. See you on the water. Bye, guys. And one more thing I forgot to talk about in the video is the drawbacks. What are the downsides to fishing with Centerpin? The only downside that I could think of is it's hard to learn. Casting these reels can be very difficult. There's no assist, there's nothing. It's all building up inertia and swinging it out. I'll make a video on that in the future, how to cast the Centerpin reels. But you pretty much swing your rod and start the reel spinning at the same time, and you cast your bait out there. You can't cast it a million miles, but what I typically do is walk out as far as you can, and once you can't walk out any farther, start fishing right there. There's been many times when I literally walk out a little bit, do a cast right in front of me at my feet, and end up hooking steelhead. You don't need to cast all the way across the river. Walk until the water gets fast or a little bit too deep to walk through, and then start fishing right there. So fish close before you fish far. That's a huge thing. So with centerpin, it can take a while. It can probably take, if you do it 25 minutes a day, it could take a week to learn how to cast it. But once it clicks, and it gets to a point where you don't even think about it anymore. You just think, okay, I want to cast right there. You think it, you do it, and it's there, and it goes. But the biggest thing is not doing it too fast. If you try to cast too fast, your rig can end up getting tangled. So it's important to just nice and controlled, lob it out there, stick with it, and you'll learn it. But it's good that it's hard, because then less people will do it. And since this is the most effective method, we don't want everyone doing it. We only want the guys that put in the work to learn how to cast it to be able to fish it effectively. In life, if something's hard, that's what's worth doing. Something easy is not worth doing because everybody will do it. Since centerpin has that learning curve, that's why it is so effective.